And so coming to know the being, the one heart of God, the essence, nature of all beings, we have to be so sure that it is not a place to hide. It is not a place to escape the world. It is not a way to hide and deny. It is about living so fully revealed as the openness in utter honesty and utter transparency where nothing is denied. What it takes to come to this depth of living. It's not ever about anyone else. It is about our own inner unfolding, let's say. Of course, there is no real inner and outer, but the sense of an inner knowing of the being and an inner world, like a secret world, where we have this incredible possibility to move through all of the karmic obscurations and find the spark of God within, and to allow that spark to shine and be the living, shining light that is the emanation of the divine right on the surface of life. We can get so distracted, projecting into the world in a myriad of ways, but it is never about the world. It is never about anyone else. It is never about the story of how we have been wronged, and it is never about being right. It is about humility. It is not about someone who is humble. Humility happens when we surrender into the being again and again, and we have the courageous openness to keep meeting all of the veils, everything that has been pushed down, suppressed, and denied, and bring it into a transparency and an honesty where nothing is hiding, everything is revealed. It is never about asking this of anyone else. It is about having the courage to meet all of the obscurations inside and to recognize that anything external is but a reflection of what is within us. If we occupy our time making projections and trying to find others wrong, we are wasting our precious time in our earthly life. We are wasting this precious opportunity to know the light of the divine wholeness that we are and to shine this light. Let us not waste a moment more. Peace is within. Peace is within. World is the moving, changing. The world is a landscape that will constantly be moving and changing. We are here to find the peace within, the light within, and to live the perennial philosophy, we could say the perennial knowing of the essential nature, that which is the essence nature that is underlying all teachings and all ways. It is to live the deepest, purest lineage, which is that of utter truth. And it is our work in this lifetime to bring this right to the surface so that this is not something abstract. We are not speaking about something abstract as a spiritual hideout. It's not somewhere to get away from pain and suffering. It's not somewhere to deny anything. This truth brought into, let's say, the times that we are living in, has to be made relevant. We cannot hide in older versions of this sharing, right? We have to recognize the perennial philosophy, the deep truth of being, the divine wholeness, and then live it currently. Let's say we live the timeless knowing of the being that we are currently, right on the surface of life. And in the most incredible way, the timelessness of this truth means that it fits in a naturalness, regardless of the times we appear to be living in, right? So the timeless nature, its naturalness, its truth is current, no matter what is happening on the surface of life. It's always current. And we, in our humanness, have the ability to embody and integrate this. We are set up for this. But it's not a doing, it's not an understanding, and it's not a learning. It is about being yourself. And what carries us deeper in is the willingness to keep facing ourselves again and again in every situation that appears on the surface of life. We are never facing another. We are never, ever looking to find completion, resolve, or answers in another. We are only ever being asked to face ourselves again and again and again. Are you angry with someone? Then find that anger in yourself and resolve it within yourself. Are you making projections externally? Then find what you are projecting within yourself and have the courage to meet it. Gossiping about it, talking about it, it does not resolve it into peace. Making public displays in this way, it offers us the possibility to just get a clearer reflection. We have to recognize that peace is meeting the one being, the love that is without conditions, and the purity of our essential nature inside our direct experience of being, and knowing in that the innocence and purity of all beings. And our work is to keep resolving our karmic obscurations and holdings of ideas that are innocently protective, but to keep resolving it inside. Sometimes the play of this will invite us to have conversations, to bring things forward, to courageously face ourselves through having a conversation with someone, right? There are many ways to face ourselves. But to face ourselves courageously, transparently, openly, in relationship dynamics, and the willingness to take full responsibility for what we are facing in ourselves. This is how these places resolve. They do not resolve by trying to hide in projections and blame and throwing around all of the feelings that we are not quite able to fully resolve inside. It is so important because the play of the world is constantly moving and changing. The play of the world is trying to sell us separation and division. And it is only when we stand truly and fully in the oneness of the heart of being and recognize that all beings are the one, that we stop dividing and perpetuating and collaborating with separation. It is never about being right, and it is never about trying to prove that we have been wronged. Accountability is inside. Every move that we have made, even if we feel we have been wrongly guided, we have to take absolute responsibility that every move we have made has felt like a truth inside us. And even if it has played out of our own conditioning, the places where we have given power away, we cannot then turn around and project that blame externally. Something inside us allowed that to happen, and we have to take absolute responsibility. That every move we have ever made, every seeming choice and decision we have ever made has in that moment felt right to us. And it has been born out of where we are living in consciousness in that moment. There is no use in revisiting the past and overlaying mental ideas that it could have been different. It's a waste of time and energy. We have to be so fully accountable in this moment. We could say for our own karmic obscurations, when we recognize that the karmic obscurations are not personal, we have no fear of recognizing that all karmic obscurations are just one part of the oneness playing out. If we are looking for resolve in the world, we will be constantly disappointed, and we will constantly keep bumping into ourselves until we fully face ourselves. You have to stand before yourself as if you are standing before a Mack truck running straight towards you, and do not blink. Meet all of yourself, because that Mack truck that is running towards you full speed is everything that you have hidden in this life and everything that you are protecting yourself from. And the possibility of this lifetime is to be free of that. Freedom from it comes from knowing our essential nature. And in our essential nature, we find a courage, a humility, naturally, a resolve that will face everything in right timing. We are invited to face, let's say, our own darkness, our own ignorance, our own arrogance, again and again and again, in order to be humbled and purified, so that the God, true nature that we are can shine, because it is all of the obscurations of our arrogance and our ignorance and our conditioning that is veiling, seeming to be veiling our divine nature. In truth, even the veiling is to the divine. Of course, there is only one, and everything is playing out perfectly. That one divine is moving everything, is animating every being. Coming to find the way to be utterly free, so that we have freedom of speech, freedom of movement, where we are not held back and edited, where we move completely freely from the depths of our being. We also move freely in a way that allows us to trip up, to reveal ourselves, to reveal our discordant patterning, and then to have what needs to be seen reflected back to us. It is part of the grace. But as long as we gather and we share our anger and stories and the positions we are holding and how our opinions are right, as long as we gather in division, wholeness will never get to the surface of life. Let us gather in oneness, only ever. Let us have the courage and willingness to face all of the ways in our own experience that we create division. To recognize with honesty and courage how we create division in our own mind, in our stories about apparent others, our great pull to join in companionship against, and see that only in the seeing through of this can we live, courageously live this oneness right on the surface of life, right? To recognize that the world is the moving, changing. It will always be moving and changing. You can spend all the time in companionship talking about peace in the world and your ideas of what peace in the world looks like and how this is right and this is wrong. But you are absolutely collaborating with division in every conversation where you are holding a position. Every conversation where you are holding a position. The only position is the resting in love, resting in wholeness, resting in the being that recognizes that the source of all is exactly the same, however it appears in the play of life. Of course, the mind cannot understand this. The mind cannot grasp this. And this is where the mind gets humbled in the face of the deeper recognition of the being that can feel, indirect experience the oneness. The being that can feel the oneness. And here, recognizing that the source of all has no division, no fragmentation. We can feel so certain that we are rooted in truth and we are right. And yet the humbling will come when we have to face deeper and deeper layers of our own hidden, denied places. Of course, we are blind until we see. We are blind until we see. But we can be so deeply, strongly committed that we see it all, not realizing that we still have blind spots. And that is why the only resting place is the place of not knowing, is of utter not knowing, and having a willingness to know that there are likely more blind spots that will be revealed. But do not spend your life, do not waste your time being focused on some kind of idea of another's blind spots or another's wounds, because that is just another way of distracting. It's such a huge way that we distract, is by keeping a focus upon someone else and what they need to do, what they maybe are not seeing. Let that be your sign that there's something inside you that is not knowing the fullness of being. If you feel any kind of stirring of agitation, this is suppressed anger. If you feel a fire that projects in any way externally, it's suppressed anger. It's something that is suppressed and has been denied. Meet it within yourself before you project out what anyone else needs to do or what anyone else is not seeing. Have the courage to face yourself and to know that the appearance of life and the world and everything that is coming as your unique view is being born out of your own consciousness for you. It is being born out of your own consciousness for your own freedom. Let us meet in the oneness of the heart, where we are not taking any sides, where we recognize that there is not a story that is free of sides and opinions and judgments, but we are not here to invest in holding a side and opinion, because every story is multifaceted. Every story holds your opinion of it. See that the story is a hook that wants to grab you right? It's not about even taking the holy side of whatever you think is righteous. True righteousness is resting in the being. It is resting in the being and knowing the one heart and knowing that every being is being played by the same divine, alive flow of life. We cannot know anything about another. We cannot know anything. It does not matter if you have lived in friendship or marriage with another for 50 years. You do not know them. You do not know what their journey is. You do not know anything about what their life is for. Do not fool yourself in thinking that you know anyone else. You do not know anyone else because you do not know yourself. When you know yourself, then you know the only possible way to know an apparent other is in the heart of love. The only way that you know another is in the heart of love. No question. Know yourself, and then you know what other is, that you know it as nothing other than yourself. When an apparent other is playing a character that you are not enjoying, it is to meet inside you what is arising. It does not mean that you cannot pull away. Of course, you follow the yes of the inner compass, let's say. But where you are pulled into situations, there is absolutely no benefit to reassessing the situation and dwelling in the past and looking and exploring all the ways it could have been, as if anyone could have played it differently. What a waste of time. What a complete waste of this precious life, this precious opportunity to know yourself and to know through the knowing of yourself what is actually happening here on the surface of life. We get tripped up. Oh yes, we get tripped up. And I can tell you that because I have been tripped up so many times, can even continue to find threads, constantly find threads. That is the grace. It is such incredible grace to feel another layer of humbling, another layer of surrender, another layer of the divine revealing, something that has not previously been seen, and we only see when we see. And it's the grace of the oneness, is that every evolutionary reverberation that happens in the collective touches us all. Every storyline that you are hanging on to, every storyline where you feel wronged, every storyline where you're holding a position of being right, every storyline where you feel like something wrong has happened, where you are waiting for an apology or accountability, let it go. Let it go right now. Meet yourself here. What does it feel like to let go? What does it feel like just to let it all go, of the whole story of the whole life and all of the ways that life hasn't treated you the way that the me wants? What does it feel like right now to let go of victimization, the story of victim perpetrator, and just to be here now? In a way, we could say true responsibility. It's not a me that's taking responsibility. It's coming into the oneness and knowing that nothing can ever be any other way than the way that it is. This is the truth. And you might say to yourself, but this is not the way I see it. That's okay. But keep meeting yourself until this is the way that you see it. The invitation of grace is to keep meeting every single thread that creates even the slightest ripple or stir, and know that it is something inside the one consciousness that is discordant, that's trying to surface out of the unconscious into consciousness, into the light, through your lived experience. But your lived experience, it feels to be individual and unique. And of course, there's a certain way that it is, but it is never, ever divided from the whole. Never divided from the whole. If there is a situation on the surface of life that feels unresolved for you, meet the places in yourself, find the courage to keep offering yourself forward for that resolve to happen. Keep making every move and be willing to just let it go and to know that the true resolve is within you. Can offer yourself and offer yourself, but pushing, wanting things to be a certain way is just another way to invest the energy in a certain kind of wanting. Trust the great divine orchestration knows. Meet all the places in yourself that maybe are afraid of asking questions, maybe afraid of expressing yourself. Find a way to be completely unedited and unfiltered in every situation. And do not be looking for outcomes. What I can assure you is you will reach a point of knowing yourself deeply enough where it just disappears. How much of this precious life will be wasted holding resentment and opinion? In this moment, to feel the felt sense of being and just to let it go. Life will never play the way the me wants, because life is here to humble us. Come to recognize that the way that life plays is exactly what is needed, and you start to feel gratitude for things not going your way, that you do not get what you want, because it's in the feeling of not getting what you want that you get to meet what happens when you don't get what you want. And that is grace. When people in your environment are unwell and suffering, dealing with illness, whatever it brings up with you, what grace. You get to meet what you wouldn't otherwise get to meet. When a relationship falls apart, when somebody passes away, when you lose something, a job or something that you really are attached to, you get to find out what happens when you don't get what you want. The me thinks that this life is about getting what it wants, but it's not. When you come to the way of the heart, when you come to the glory of the divine, you find out that it's not about getting what you want, that it's about what God wants. And you start to value what God wants. And there comes an allegiance with what the me wants is what God wants. We're not here to make stories and happy endings for the me. And when we see through the great illusion, the great delusion of trying to create happy stories, we actually come to find happiness is always here in the being. We come to find that happiness is causeless, that happiness is just our true nature. There is a depth of work that is possible in this human life that most beings will not touch into. But allow this precious life to be directed towards that, if it feels true for you. Allow this precious life to be directed towards unraveling the tangle of karmic obscurations that keep you from knowing the divine one that you are. Let this life be about being humbled and to know that if we are just here thinking that the me is going to have some kind of great spiritual awakening and then just live in this blissful gorgeousness, living out the same life that I have always lived with all the things the way that the me wants it, that is the greatest delusion. The delusion of what awakening is, of what enlightenment it is, perpetuates on the surface of life because so few truly understand. In true understanding, it's not about things and experiences and stories and happy endings. It's about being humbled right down to the dust of nothingness again and again and again, and never knowing what this is all about never knowing. Every moment that you feel like, oh, there's a clear seeing, isn't this beautiful? The next humbling comes and you feel like a baby in the arms of the Divine Mother that knows absolutely nothing. That feels like a constant fool for having ever felt like the light was shining, that truth was ever known. To constantly be humbled into knowing that every moment when there is utter presence, there is nothing other than just this, and this is nothing. This is nothing. Nothing matters. Nothing that's moving and changing is true. There's no story that has any importance or relevance. The only thing that is important is the shining light of your heart that is love. And in the recognition of this love, you recognize that we are only here to love. And the heart opens in the recognition of what true love is. The heart opens in the recognition of what true love is. True love is powerful. True love does not waver. True love does not leave the situation because it is uncomfortable. True love does not close in the face of not getting what it wants. True love stays completely still and open, and it keeps loving. Because true love knows that whatever is before it too is love. And it is willing, more than willing, it is pulled dynamically to keep meeting more and more of itself in absolutely everything. It is willing for all protection to crumble and to be humbled again and again and again, so that it can meet itself. And what you can be sure of is that love will keep coming back for all of itself. It will keep coming back for all of itself, because it is so deeply committed in its essence nature to love and love and love and love. And when love doesn't behave the way that you want love to behave, what you can know is that that somehow too is love's truth. If you do not leave love, love will not leave you. But it does not mean that the surface of life will look the way that now the me wants. No. It will look the way that God wants. And we meet in love, and we rest here in utter openness, and we feel the power. We feel the power of just remaining still and unmoving, and we trust that the way that the play of life and the characters are playing are God's will. It is God's will. And we fall into the deep and clear knowing, may God's will be done. May Ma's will be the only will, recognized as the only doer of all action. That everything is God, is Ma dancing with Ma. There is nothing outside of this truth. And if we do not see it this way, then our work continues. This is what a human life is for. It is for this work. Some will see that, some will not. It does not matter. The ones that see it will keep falling in, and each being will go as far as they are able in this human life. And there is no judgment of what ability each being has, because wherever each being is exactly part of the whole. So again, we are not here to judge anyone in our dreamscape, let's say, as not doing the work, as doing the work of, it doesn't matter. There's so many ways we can distract. Be with yourself and be only with yourself. Find the love that you are and let that love shine. Let the shining light of the love that you are be shining right on the surface of life. Do not keep it as an abstract hiding place, a spiritual hiding place where you are righteous about how spiritual you are, where you dream about your spiritual ambitions and what you think awakening and enlightenment is. Have the courage to be messy, to meet yourself fully, so that freedom is all the way through. Let us say the characters that play the most challenging characters in our lives are the ones that are here to free us. Those characters have come into this life as a life of sacrifice for us, right? The challenging characters in the great scheme of things, they are here to free us. They may not even know that. But let us know in our heart that the characters that play the most challenging ones in our lives have stepped into sacrifice to free us. That the ones that we think have been the perpetrators of abuse and trauma in our early lives have been playing divine characters in our lives in order for this human life to have a depth of value, because the depth of value of a human life is a life that is coming to freedom. We all have these opportunities in our life to see through. After the body of a loved one or any being drops, right? A being that's close to us. If we have the depth of clear seeing, we realize that the veiling of the story has been a complete waste of time, and a whole life can be lived holding grievances and stories and upset. And when the body drops, you realize it was just a story, and the whole story was a setup, and that soul was here for your freedom. That soul that played out some kind of dysfunctional role in your young life was here for your freedom. Even if that character played out as a being that was not spiritual and was not doing the work and was shrouded in ignorance and arrogance, it does not matter. We do not know with our minds how this all works. But when we come to a recognition inside that every character is Ma, every character is God, then we have the possibility to see through it while we still have earthly breath, breathing the body into a felt sense of living this humanity. But let the rest of our human embodiment be as the shining light of love and truth. And let us release all of the ways that we are holding the attention with limitation, division, and obscurations of karma. Of course, it's not just going to go bing, wave the magic wand, it's all gone. But let us say yes in utter commitment to the being, to living this truth. Please. No more collaboration with division. No more collaboration with the stories and the gossip. No more collaboration with blame and projection. No more collaboration with being wronged. A willingness to find the resolve within, a willingness to meet yourself, face yourself, a willingness to face yourself, all of yourself. Please. Atonement. What is true atonement? What is true forgiveness? What is true mercy? It is to find the union with God within and to forgive yourself for the foolish ways that our humanness plays out when we are blind. To forgive yourself and to find the union within, to recognize in our true nature we are sinless, and all accountability is inside. When we see through the division of our own mental conversation and we come to the being that is one, we know the innocence of ourself, we know the goodness of our true nature, and when we know the goodness of our true nature, we know the goodness of all. And we are not trying to find goodness in others. We are finding goodness in our essential nature, and we find peace in the heart of who we are. We find compassion and patience and love for all beings. No matter what character they are playing, it matters not. It's completely irrelevant. And there is grace for the ways that our challenging feelings and emotions are able to come to the surface. Guilt and shame, waste of time. This moment, resting in the being, it is the correction of the misunderstanding. This moment, resting in the being, resting in the heart of love, is the correction of the misunderstanding that there is someone that is separate from the whole. And it is not to dwell on the past or to dwell in ideas that things could ever have been any other way. Everything that has played in the looping, cycling story of me, let it play itself out. Let it run out of fuel, because you are resting so deeply, nourishing the truth of who you are. And in the nourishing the truth of who you are, see that the story that you have been fueling has no power. It has no power unless you give it power. Let us rest in the silence of eternity, in the knowing of the eternal, timeless nature. Let us rise in this moment. As we rise in the knowing of the love and the light we are not ascending in a way that the mind imagines that we are bigger or better. As we rise in this truth, we are on our knees, on our bellies, with our foreheads to the floor in utter surrender, right? As we rise, we have never been smaller. We have never been quieter, but we only truly rise in the knowing of the holiness of true nature when we let go of the ties and the threads that bind us to worldly story. Freedom is right here. Freedom is right here. Freedom is who you are. I'm reminded of this profound hymn once again of atonement. I've spoken of this before. At the end, it speaks, breathe through the heat of our desires, thy coolness and thy balm. May sense be dumb, may flesh retire. Breathe through the earthquake, wind and fire, O still, small voice of calm. It is to find the still, small voice of calm inside, the true essential nature, and let it be the cool balm that dampens the energy of projection, that dampens that fire to keep the me alive, to keep the desires of the me and the mind and the flesh alive, to see that what I am in truth as the being is not the body, is not the mind, but is the peace that is undisturbable. And let us meet here. Let the puddles of individuality dry up in the warmth of the sun. And so the oneness that is the shining, radiant heart is so fully beaming and illuminated. Mm-hmm. Let us make the commitment to not collaborate with that which wants to perpetuate division. What is that? It is the mind. Let us not collaborate with mind. Let us collaborate with wholeness, with love. And let the power of love keep cracking us open and open and open. Every time we meet a place within us where there is resistance, agitation, aggravation, a sense of upset or suffering, let us stay so open in love, in presence to our own inner resistance, our own inner struggle, and recognize that the healing of division happens inside, not outside. And the reverberations of our inner healing, true inner healing, is the recognition of the oneness. And as we rest in this knowing and we drink the nectar, the rasa, right? The essence nectar of our knowing, this creates reverberations that ripple out to the one whole collective and uplifts. Let us recognize our true work. We could say the true battle is the one that goes on inside. Be a hero, heroine of your own journey, of your own inner battle, the battle for freedom. Every being is fighting it inside the mind. Rest in the being and recognize you do not need to battle to find resolve in the world, that the winning of the battle is a dropping into being. The true hero's journey is not about going out in the world and conquering. The true hero's journey is the finding union has always been inside you. Finding that the divine has always, always been inside. Let us rest here in love, in light, in being. What could be more important? What could be more profound than love? True love, pure love. The love that just loves. And knows that where there feels like there is a fiber out of place, it is to find the alignment inside, regardless of what it looks like outside. True atonement is reconciliation inside. It's the reconciliation inside of recognizing that God is all that is. And as our humanness surrenders its sense of separation into that oneness with God, the reconciliation is felt in the heart of being. It's felt in the silence, in the stillness of being. This is the reconciliation. This is the knowing. And it's here in the drinking of the nectar, the rasa of being, that we deepen and deepen and deepen. It is so right now. Let it be so in your direct experience. And so it is.